initially when I started watching American Psycho, I thought I wasn't enjoying it purely because of personal preference, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But as the film went on, I realised it was very, very boring. I do not think this is a good film. It's an okay film, but I certainly don't think it's amazing. I certainly don't think it's a classic that everybody should watch. It has 7.6 out of 10 on IMDb across 786,000 reviews and ratings, which I don't agree with. I don't see it. The character writing for Patrick Bateman is amazing, and I think Christie and Bale gave a fantastic performance, and that 7.6 out of 10 for the character and the performance I could absolutely agree with. But the story itself is incredibly mundane, and yes, it's a character-driven narrative, but you still need something interesting to happen in the film, and I'd say something maybe every half an hour happened that was slightly interesting. The rest of it was very, very bland. This was released in 2000. It's directed by Mary Harron, written by Harron and Guinevere Turner, based on American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. And we have a cast including, of course, Christian Bale as Patrick Bateman. And we also have Justin Theroux, Reese Witherspoon. Great cast and performances. Absolutely no problems. We have Jared Leto, Willem Dafoe. The performances are very good. That being said, most of the characters are completely in the shadow of Patrick Bateman, which I think makes sense. That's absolutely fine. I think that was a good decision to very much make him just the magnet for everything that's happening. Every character just goes to him. Every scene he's at the focus of, and it just works so well in terms of the character writing. But everything that's happening around about him is so boring. In case you're unaware, American Psycho is obviously about Patrick Bateman, who is a serial killer with a very complex personality, and the film is basically about him and the very dark and disturbing things that he does. And the killings, the dark moments, are very, very well done. They feel realistic, I guess, and Bateman's emotions are really fascinating. And the way that Christian Bale switches from when he's doing these killings to then just almost completely emotionless immediately after. It's so fascinating to watch as a character. But everything else is so boring. Everything that we have to sit through to get from one point to the next interesting point is just drags on so much. The rest of the characters, as I said, they're reasonably well written, but they're not that interesting compared to Bateman. Bateman just completely steals the film, as he should, but that means that other than Bateman, there's not really anything else that's worth looking at or learning about or paying attention to. It's all very boring. I don't understand why it's so highly rated. Again, maybe people are rating it highly because of Bateman's performance and because of the character writing. I should point out, I don't know if it's an exact replica of the character in the book. I haven't read it, but certainly in the film, very, very well-written character. But the narrative is so boring, so dull, that I just could not enjoy this. As I said, the very few times we see Bateman descend into those dark moments, yeah, I did like those, but they're very few and far between, and the fluff in the middle is just so bland. Maybe they were trying to go with a bland narrative so that Bateman really stood out, and it made it very clear that this is a film about Bateman. It is very much Bateman's story, and we're supposed to be paying attention to the character rather than whatever is happening around about him. If that was their decision, fine, but you still need something relatively interesting to happen so that people can actually pay attention. Because even the strongest character is not enough to carry a film if the story itself is very weak. So that's why I ultimately didn't like it. Initially, I didn't like it because, and I thought this was purely a personal preference thing, because we hear Bateman's internal thoughts. And I hate it. I detest it. I hate films that use voiceover narration. I don't mind it when it's at the very beginning of a film, but when it's throughout, it just drives me insane. First of all, I find it to just be really irritating. And second of all, often I find it to be quite lazy. You're supposed to show us, don't tell us. With Bateman, I do think it serves a purpose, because we get to dig deeper and deeper and deeper into his character. But at the same time, I feel like not knowing what he was thinking in certain moments would have been more disturbing. So, on the one hand, yes, I can understand why they made that decision. But on the other, I don't think it was a good decision. Objectively, I don't think it was a good decision. But also, of course, subjectively, I hated it. I absolutely hated it. And that meant that it wasn't off to a good start, as this happens very early on in the film. I thought, okay, if this happens throughout it, I'm not going to enjoy this. It's going to really bother me. And then I realised, well, actually, the narrative's really boring. So it's not a good film. I don't understand why it gets so much love. Again, maybe it's because of the performance and the character writing. But for me, even though there are many good character-driven films, that's not enough for me to ultimately rate a film very highly, because it still needs some kind of good story. And again, those few moments where things get very dark and quite disturbing, they're very strong, they're very well done. But in between, it is just so dire. I don't like it. I don't think American Psycho is a good film. I think Bateman is a very strong character, a very well-written character. I think Christie and Bale gave an absolutely phenomenal performance. But other than that, there's not much about this film that I can praise. I recommend it in the sense that I do feel like everybody should watch it and form their own opinion, because you may love it. You may see something in the narrative that I'm not seeing, and if that's the case, completely fair enough. But also you may watch it and not like it, but at least then you can say you gave it a go. So I always feel like, even though it's not so much that I don't recommend it, I do think it's worth watching for the character. But if you're looking to watch a film to enjoy the narrative, become involved in the story, to have the emotional journey of the narrative, this isn't going to be that film. Check it out for the character, watch Christian Bale's performance, hopefully enjoy his performance, but the story needed a lot of work to be interesting. Again, maybe they went with a weak narrative to really make the character stand out, but that doesn't make it an entertaining experience. It's not an amazing film. I don't understand the praise. I do understand the praise for Christian Bale, but the film itself is not incredible. I recommend it for some reasons, but ultimately, I doubt I'd ever watch it again.